On March 12, at a meeting in Paris, the defense ministers of France, the UK, Germany, Poland and Italy signed a joint declaration agreeing to enhance European support for peace in Ukraine. The agreement also includes accelerating defense industrial cooperation projects. French Minister of the Armed Forces Sébastien Lecornu noted that around 15 countries are willing to provide various security guarantees for Ukraine. He also announced that EU and NATO military chiefs would meet again in 15 days.
Our military chiefs have also started drafting plans to present to political leaders regarding the potential security architecture. The goal is to establish peace and a ceasefire that would be sustainable in the long term.
The effort to create a coalition of the willing to support Ukraine's security is gaining momentum, according to UK Defense Minister John Healey following his meeting with his European counterparts.
The UK and France are jointly leading work on plans to drive the push for peace and drive the arrangements for security guarantees for Ukraine. We're doing this work together. We're cooperating closely with partner nations, and we're looking to build a coalition of the willing from Europe and beyond. And from today, we are accelerating that work.
According to Bloomberg, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron are leading negotiations among 37 countries to form a coalition of the willing in support of Ukraine's security. These talks have also involved non-NATO nations such as Australia, Japan and New Zealand. UK officials cited by Bloomberg emphasize that any Russian attempts to obstruct this process would be a deliberate effort to undermine long-term peace prospects.
Nations across Europe, the Commonwealth and Asia contribute either funding troops, aircraft or naval vessels to help protect Ukraine from the prospect of further Russian aggression. Defense officials believe stationing European troops inside Ukraine is an integral part of a durable, lasting peace solution. From the Bloomberg publication.
Earlier, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu stated that Europe must reject calls for the demilitarization of Ukraine, a stance echoed by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Scholz emphasized that a strong Ukrainian military is crucial for the country's security, adding that Europe and the United States must continue supporting Ukraine both during and after the conflict.
But as Germans, as Brits, as French, we will not stay idle. We strive and make an effort to bring good progress about. I welcome the proposal for a 30-day ceasefire, and we will make a contribution for its success. Again, Ukraine's perspective needs to be that Ukraine is able to defend its sovereignty, that it can make progress on the path towards the European Union, and that it has a strong own independent army. The demilitarization of Ukraine has been one of the goals of Russia, and this must not succeed.
One key aspect of improving European defense, according to German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, is reducing bureaucracy.
We can work together very differently on maintenance and servicing and make each other's respective bases available. We can deploy the systems together, so the aim of faster and less bureaucratic procurement has been agreed. It cannot be that a weapon system that has been certified in the home country of my friend Sébastien Lecornu has to go through a lengthy certification process again in Germany. We don't have the time for that. It's superfluous and costly.
Meanwhile, in Poland, Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz announced his intention to undergo military training and urged Polish politicians to follow his example. According to Polish media, the Ministry of Defense is planning a 2-day voluntary military training program for members of parliament this spring. Reported by Kateryna Bastun-Kidi, UATV News. Kyiv's partners will discuss the presence of peacekeeping forces in Ukraine. This was announced by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese, following a phone conversation. After the talk, the UK Prime Minister's press office stated that Australia is ready to join the coalition of the willing.
He welcomed Prime Minister Albanese's commitment to consider contributing to a coalition of the willing for Ukraine and looked forward to the chiefs for defense meeting in Paris on Tuesday. The Prime Minister also reiterated the UK's commitment to the AUKUS program. The leaders agreed to stay in touch. From the UK government's press office.
The Coalition of the Willing initiative was first announced by the UK Prime Minister on March 3rd, following an emergency meeting of European leaders on supporting Ukraine. Its goal is to coordinate countries to ensure regular arms supplies to Kyiv and deploy peacekeeping forces to Ukraine after the cessation of hostilities. The coalition is led by London, Paris and Kyiv. According to Keir Starmer, this initiative is one of 4 key steps toward achieving a just peace in Ukraine, following a peace agreement.
We will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now. With real urgency, the UK is prepared to back this. With boots on the ground and planes in the air, together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Keir Starmer discussed the coalition of the willing with leaders of 20 European countries at a meeting dedicated to supporting Ukraine in Brussels on March 6. The UK, France, Australia and Canada have already expressed their readiness to participate in forming a peacekeeping contingent. Ottawa confirmed that the deployment of troops will be discussed among Kyiv's partners.
There is discussions among the nations who refer to themselves as the coalition of the willing. Canada is ready and able to make a contribution to that force, but we also believe that there's important discussions that need to take place with respect to security guarantees for Ukraine and for the forces that would serve in Ukraine.
Bucharest and Warsaw have declared their readiness to provide logistical support for the deployment of peacekeeping forces. According to Romania's acting president Ilie Boloyan, the country is prepared to offer its military bases, ports and airports for allied troop movements. Meanwhile, Polish Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz stated that Poland is prepared to facilitate arms deliveries from partner nations through its territory. However, Warsaw continues to insist that it will not deploy its own soldiers in Ukraine. Polish President Andrzej Duda suggested that the deployment of UN peacekeepers should be considered.
Some proposals include the presence of NATO or European peacekeeping forces. I do not see this as the only option. We could consider a situation along the demarcation line between Russia and a sovereign, independent Ukraine. We may need certain peacekeeping and monitoring forces, but I do not rule out the possibility that both sides could agree to UN forces. In my view, Russia would have to consent to such a move. As a permanent member of the UN Security Council, I do not think it would oppose this solution.
Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani also expressed support for the idea of deploying UN peacekeeping forces. He argued that if hostilities cease within a year and a just peace agreement is reached, the deployment of European troops may no longer be necessary. Previously, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni suggested that NATO's Article 5 should be extended to Ukraine without granting it formal membership in the alliance. According to her, this would be the only way to guarantee lasting peace. Reported by Katerina Bastun, Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News.